On today's episode of Locked On 76ers, Keith and I discuss a huge Game 5 victory for Philadelphia in Boston. They come back to Philadelphia Thursday looking to close out the series. We'll talk about what took place on Tuesday night right here, Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Welcome. You are Locked On 76ers. I'm Devon Givens from 97.5 The Fanatic Radio in Philadelphia alongside my co-host Keith Pompey, live from Miami, Sixers beat writer extraordinaire for the Inquirer.com. Keith, huge win, man. What's happening?
It's great, man, but I don't think I'm in Miami yet. Now they got one more game to win.
Oh, sorry, Boston.
Nah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's all good. It's all good.
I was looking at some stuff here on my screen. I see Miami, so I said.
So
Miami.
I gotta say, so that means you got the Sixers winning, huh?
No. I was actually looking at ESPN.com and looking at the entire playoff picture there, and Miami and New York popped up for the next game. So I just said Miami. So
I got a question for you. Did we have a bet on this series?
Did we have a bet? I don't think we had a bet. I just said that the Sixers would win, and you said Boston. I don't think we bet anything.
Oh, okay. Your boy, I saw your boy
John.
Night. Yeah, he was like, "Hey, hi, what's up, man?" I'll tell you what, though, he's some pretty good swag. You would like his sneaker game now.
Well, I saw John in Philadelphia for game number, I think it was game 4. Game 3. I saw him in game 3, pregame, and we talked for a little bit. And he did have some pretty good kicks on there, and I'm sure he's kicking up dust right now after that team didn't do their job in game 5 at home. But listen, before we get into it all, a 12-point victory on the road for the Sixers. We have to thank everybody, as always, for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. We thank you for jumping in early this morning, this afternoon, whenever you log into us. Remember, Locked On 76ers is free and available on all platforms, including right here on YouTube on Locked On 76ers, especially in a big playoff run that they're on right now. A big series against the Boston Celtics. That is now a 3-2 lead, Keith. We got to talk about that, of course, of what stood out. An X factor that we did not expect in this game, Daniel House. We'll get into him a little bit later. And also talk about, Keith, something that I wanted to bring up to you, which was, a few things involving overall Doc Rivers once again with the way that he did things last night. Keith, a 12-point victory. They controlled the game for a good 40-plus minutes overall, even when things got a little dicey and the Boston Celtics made a run. The Philadelphia 76ers had an answer every single time, Keith. And I have to tell you, man, this is one of those games that I look at from them. And as we've seen them throughout this series, this was clearly the best, most Philadelphia 76ers-like game that we saw through the 54 wins during the regular season. This was one of those games that I think that we hadn't seen in a while from them, and they pulled it out of their hat at the right time.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the thing about this is like one of those victories that they wouldn't, like we keep saying all year, like they wouldn't pull this out a year ago.
Different, and
it's different. And that's what it was. I mean, it was like, heading into the game, it was like I'm like, shucks. I'm asking people, what you think? I don't know. No one knew, because in the past we all would have said this is a game that they would lose. But now we were like, I don't know, because this is a new team. This is a different feel. So we'll see if they can overcome this. And they did. I mean, they played well. Like, you said we'll talk about some stuff like deeper into the podcast, but I mean, they came out, the intensity. I mean, they played with a huge sense of urgency. I mean, one thing that you and I talked about is that it's a democracy, right? Certain guys got to play their roles. And I felt like guys played their role. Now, again, they got points from Tyrese Maxey that helped out. But James Harden played a splendid point guard game. Joel Embiid was the MVP, showed why he was. And we also talked about Tobias Harris. When he's not getting shots, he's going to have to do other things. He shot 7 for 10 from the field, but to me, his 9 rebounds in the first half was a major difference because it kept possessions away from Boston and it gave the Sixers some extra possessions. So
Mhm.
to me, they all played well, but they all played their role, in my opinion.
That's what we're talking about, playing their brand. When we've seen them at their best, Keith, it wasn't always Embiid dropping 45 or 50 or getting close to 60. It was a team win. This was a complete win for the Philadelphia 76ers. To your point, the MVP played like an MVP player, not just offensively, defensively, getting 4 block shots and a key one on Jaylen Brown late in the game. Tyrese Maxey stepped up where James Harden, as you said, played a great floor game with 17 and 10 and only shot the ball 8 times, but still got to the free throw line, converted those free throws, and still ended with 17. That again is a part of where we talked about you didn't need 42, you didn't need 45, you probably didn't need 30. You just needed a double double. And while normally we were saying 20 and 10, that 17 and 10 was more than enough. And not to mention, Keith, when you talked about those 9 boards, 16 points for Tobias Harris, 7 of 10, he battled foul trouble again, but he stayed engaged. He stayed locked in, and he led the entire game with 11 boards overall. You saw PJ Tucker doing PJ Tucker things, hitting a big three late in the fourth. And you had your role players coming off the bench playing in their spots the way that they needed to. So this is what I meant by a Philadelphia 76ers like win, which was what we saw through 54 games, great individual performances, but also when we said, when they're at their best, when they're playing together and when they're sharing the basketball. And that's what we saw last night. And they played their most complete game in this series. Despite the fact that they had 2 series wins already, this was the most complete when they were all on the floor. The best game that they've played thus far.
I would concur. It
Yeah.
was the best.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
better
just,
than what they did in Brooklyn, man. Like to me,
yeah.
because that was their best game. Better than what they did in Brooklyn.
Yeah, most definitely. Before we move on and get to uh, Daniel House and his contribution, Doc Rivers pulling that one out of his hat, the crowd seemed like they were really subdued a little bit there, Keith, especially when Boston really couldn't make a run. They had some looks too early, and they just couldn't knock down shots. And the Sixers were able to capitalize on their misses.
Yeah, true. The crowd, and it was funny. Like not funny, but at one point, I want to say it was like maybe 8 minutes or whatever it was, and left in the game. You starting to see the exodus, like people were leaving.
Right.
And here's the thing: I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Like in the first quarter, end of the first quarter, they were booing them. I mean,
I
they were
did hear
literally
that. Yeah.
they,
Yeah.
they they booed them, and then they booed them again, and this and that. And I'm saying to myself, like, now if this was in Philly, everyone would be complaining and talking about how bad we are.
How about the fans, you mean?
Yeah,
Right.
the fans
Yeah.
and
Right.
saying that, but they was out there booing them in the first quarter.
Yeah,
You
you
know
won't
what?
hear peep about that
Nah,
nationally.
you ain't gonna hear nothing about that. Nah, it's just like, hey, they were just disappointed. Team struggle, but if it was in Philly, it would be a whole lot different. But yeah, it was kind of like they just it was subdued at times. But then at one point, you heard people chanting, "Let's go Celtics!" Right? Let's go Celtics. But then Maxi came down and drained the three. Joel came down, hit one, and then it turned back to booze again.
Yeah, no question, man. Well, they quieted that crowd and they got it going. They played a very good brand of basketball, and now they are on the brink of possibly eliminating that team on Thursday in Game 6. Before we get to that, and of course, get to we're going to pivot next and talk about Maxey a little bit more because it needs to be discussed what he did in this game last night. We'll get into it next right here, Locked On 76ers. But first, I have to tell you, as I mentioned at the top, that this episode is brought to you by Gametime. And as we talk about being in the arena for Boston hosting Philadelphia, Now, the same thing may be the case on Thursday in Philadelphia, hosting Boston. Trying to get those last-minute tickets, those last-minute deals, going to see your favorite concert. Well, once again, Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful at all. You should be able to think about what you want to do, go to your phone, get on that app, and get what you need. Sometimes it's not that easy, but with Game Time, it's fast and easy, and it's an easy way to, again, buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. If you want killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you got to stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun you have. Now, let me tell you about these easy to find and buy tickets for every game of every event in your area, images of the seat views, lowest price guaranteed. And again, event cancellation protection. Should something get canceled, like a comedy show, a concert with a musician might come up a little ill and they have to cancel their show, you don't have to worry about it. Again, Game Time is the place for you. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. The Game Time guarantee also means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest growing ticket app in the country for a reason. Tickets are sent directly to your phone to make it easy, so you never have to dig through your email. Snag those tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Thanks for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. And everydayers, we always thank you. And tomorrow on the show, we'll get you set for game number 6 on Thursday as we get ready for that possible closeout game for the 76ers on their home floor. All right, Keith, a little pivot for me as I kind of change our timeline up of what we wanted to do. Tyrese Maxey, we've been asking for somebody to break through. Tyrese Maxey did. Tobias Harris also did with his double-double that he had last night, leading the team in rebounding as well with 11, a game high. But Maxey, Keith, did you see anything different from him early on with his pregame routine, how he looked early? What were some things that you might have seen in-game as well that changed the course of his type of night after some struggles previously?
I mean, I didn't see anything differently about him. I mean, Tyrese Maxey is a confident guy. You know what I mean? Like, I know he had some struggles and he said some things at times, but I didn't see anything different. But what I did see in the game was I saw him attack more. I mean, I saw him play what I felt like was with more confidence, going to the rim, getting stuff like that. That's the things that stood out to me. Also, it was like kind of sort of, there was one time that I felt like a lot of the times on his layups when he was getting it blocked, he was going the same way. Like, he would go run and he would run to the right. Like, he would come to the left and go to the right. There was one time where he went baseline and went left, right? And I was like, oh, okay, Tyree. And then also I saw like it was some like nice threes that he got. So I felt like he attacked. Now again, there was times in the second quarter he shot the ball extremely well, and then the fourth quarter. And then I think it was the first quarter and the fourth quarter.
First quarter, I think he and Embiid had 11 apiece.
Yeah. And then the second quarter, like, he was quiet. And then the third quarter he was okay, but then the fourth quarter he kind of took over, right? Yeah. So to me, I was a little bit impressed by that because he had spurts, but at the same time he stayed aggressive. So Tyrese had a pretty good game, man. He had a really good game, a good breakout. I mean, that's the first time that he really showed the Boston Celtics why people in Philadelphia are high on him.
Yeah, and it was good to see him doing on the road also. Playing in front of that crowd, again, hostile, the game is getting underway, but he set the tone early for himself of how aggressive he was going to be. He, Embiid, and Harden, and Harris, all of them looking solid in that first quarter to get things going. Up 7 after 1, and again, just a really good performance. I also like that Doc Rivers put him on the ball as the point guard, if you will, and allowed things to play off of him and Embiid and others. And I felt like that helped him a little bit more because the ball was already in his hands. So coming around those picks that were set from Joel Embiid, he would dance around those, get to a spot, drill a three. To your point, also, there was a drive I remember that he had on the left side of the floor in the first half where he drove past his defender. I believe it was Jaylen Brown at that moment. But instead of driving all the way to the basket 1 foot and getting to the basket for a layup opportunity and even giving a chance for one of the defenders to recover and potentially attempt to block the shot, he did a 2-foot jump and scoop layup real fast, knowing that he could get that shot off before one of those players had time to recover, get over, and attempt to block that shot. So I thought his decision-making was pretty good. He had a pull-up jumper there in the second half that we would have seen him in game 3 and 4 driving to the basket nonstop without pulling back and taking the easier shot that was much better than, again, going into the teeth of the defense. Instead, he did a stop. It wasn't a clean shot as far as make goes. It rattled in, but that's what you need to see him do, similar to what we've seen James Harden do from time to time when he's gotten to that mid-range. Instead of attacking those bigs and inviting all of that attention, you just stop, make the defender back up a little bit, pull up for that jump shot, and knock it down. I thought he played a really good game. And also, man, being out there, both he and James Harden, they didn't turn the ball over. You know what I mean? And Maxey had 1 and Harden had 2. And that I'll take that when you're talking about 2 guys that played 39 and 42 minutes on the evening. I'll take that every day from my backcourt if I'm able to still get 47 points, that type of production, 13 assists, 10 for James Harden, and only 3 turnovers in that time on the floor. I'll take that every day of the week.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
I mean that's pretty good. Yeah, that was good, especially on the road. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And again, even though Harden was being picked up, which is why they put the ball in Tyrese Maxey's hands, not only to take some pressure off of James because he's being picked up 70 feet away from the basket, but to also put Maxey in a position to score off the bounce right away. It was also to take some of that pressure, and he handled that pressure because Derek White was still dogging him up the floor, and you get a couple of screen sets to free you up a little bit, but he didn't panic. He didn't turn the ball over. We didn't see any of those young mistakes from a young basketball player. We saw a guy that maybe showed us something where we could be talking about him a little bit further into the couple of weeks here, where we're saying that guy came alive and came, some growth and some more maturity after a game like this. So great game from Tyrese Maxey in a big spot where it called for him to help out. I didn't know if he was going to get 30. We kept saying, hey, give you 20, maybe 25 max. He was on a roll, and that was a good performance from Tyrese Maxey. On the other side, our final segment, we'll talk about how Doc Rivers decided on the X factor, which was, in fact, Daniel House Jr. Big minutes from him, big impact. We'll talk about what he meant to the team on Tuesday night in this game where the 76ers won Game 5 by 12. Next up, Game 6 on Thursday. We'll dive into it next right here, Locked On 76ers. Play that music. Welcome back, Locked On 76ers. That's Keith Pompey in Boston. I'm Devon Givens with you here as we recap game number 5.
Wayne in Miami.
Not yet. Maybe not. We'll see.
I know you got to be careful, right?
Still have some work to do. They still have some work to do. But one of the things that helped them get closer to a potential advancing past this series, Doc Rivers, man, he's been going with the three bench lineup, 3 reserves coming off the bench: Melton, Reed, Niang, and that's been consistent. Jalen McDaniels out the rotation after game number 3. we weren't sure where he was going to go. But last night, Doc Rivers pressed the right button and decided that he was going with Daniel House. And it was a bit of surprise for most. He said post game, Keith, that he had 3 options that he wanted to go to. And Daniel House wasn't one of them. I mean, he was part of it, but he wasn't the one he was leaning to. But he had a feeling, he had a moment, and he called on Daniel House. And Keith, 10 points, 15 minutes. It was the right call from Doc Rivers. He pressed the right buttons on that one. So good call by him.
And it's funny because those 10 points in 15 minutes is a little misleading because he actually had like 10 and 10. And then all of a sudden, he kept them in like the blowout time. But I mean, he played well. I mean, the funny thing is, D House brings that energy. He brings energy. He plays well with James. He's a positive dude. Like, Daniel House, of all the guys that came in, you hear like we all hear about the stuff in the bubble that happened, all that other stuff. So you're like, well, okay, what this guy going to be like? And then you meet him and it's like, he's one of the nicest guys that you've ever met. Like real rap, he is. And he always says, he walks around and says, this is a we season, not a me season, right? Right. So like, and I'm pretty sure he gets a little disappointed when he's not playing. But at the same time, outwardly, he's like the quintessential teammate that's keeping the guys together. So you always feel happy for him when he gets to play. And you also realize that he comes out and he brings that athleticism, that energy, and does a lot. And he played well, like you said, 10 points in 15 minutes. But there was like one steal he had, a rebound going the other way. It was like track meet. The guy made some solid plays for him last night.
And his 15 minutes, Keith, even though you said it was like a little misleading, it was like 10, but total was 15 because of the garbage time. Where the game was out of hand. Keith, even with those 10 minutes, the impact felt like he was on the floor for 25 minutes because of how well he played, the things that he did, getting his hands in there, as you talked about, getting a rebound, going the other way, running the floor with James Harden trusting him, hitting him in stride, finishing in traffic, a little off balance where you're like, no. Okay, cool. It went in. And that's the type of thing that he did. And he brings that length when he has to defend Tatum or Brown, trying to disrupt them a little bit more as well, make things a little different. Same thing with Malcolm Brogdon, where Malcolm Brogdon for the first time didn't even reach double digits in the scoring column. Daniel House, you got to give props to Doc Rivers for calling his number, and Daniel House being a professional, always ready. As you said, you feel like signing a 2-year contract. You think you're going to be a big part of the rotation. He fell out of the rotation. His number wasn't called for towards the latter quarter of the season. He wasn't really getting any time. And then in that final 15 games, Keith, Doc Rivers pulled him off the bench and he started getting good minutes. And it was like, oh, he might have earned some playoff burn here. And he did so against Brooklyn, but not in this series until now. And I would have to think now, Keith, that when Doc Rivers, if he sees a moment, he goes to the bench on Thursday, he's probably going to look for number 25.
Yeah, probably. You know what I mean? But you know what? I tell you what, Doc has been doing some phenomenal coaching.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to commend him for that. You also got to commend him for the way that the culture has changed. Like, in Embiid, everybody talks about Joel maturing and stuff like that, and he has. But I also think a lot of it had to do with Doc, too, expecting stuff out of him, right, and allowing him. And then Doc got more of his type of players in here, too. So you have to commend him for what's going on. But, yeah, he made some really good coaching moves. And like you said, we all assume it's going to be D House if he goes that way. And D House showed why he deserves to play. I mean, let's face it, the last game that Jalen McDaniels played, the moment just looked too big for him.
Game 3, right?
Yeah, it was game 3.
Yeah, it was home.
The moment just looked too big for him. He played well, great up until then, but it just looked too big. And that's why they went to an 8-man rotation. Mm-hmm. And it's funny. Remember how we were at practice and Doc said, Doc was talking about everybody getting tired. And I said, well, does that mean you're going to go to a 9-man rotation next game? Oh, no.
No, we're not doing that.
No, we're not doing that. And something said to me, write that in your article that he's not going to do it. And something said, nah, Doc's going to do it. He's going to do it because he was adamant. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. And then look what happened. But it is what it is. It is what it is. But look, I gotta say this, D. I gotta say this. The Boston Celtics, unless they make some major changes in the next day or so, they're in trouble, dude. I mean, like the adjustments that they make, it looks like an AAU team out there to me, dude. Like it does. Like, okay, Al Horford, if he ain't hitting shots, he ain't doing anything.
Yeah, he was.
You know what I'm saying? Like as good as Jason Tatum is and how much he got 36 points, the brother was a minus 26, right? And it just seems like he's shooting the ball, but while he's shooting the ball, Marcus Smart can't get in the rhythm. Derek White can't give in the rhythm. And then it was like, Jaylen Brown had 24, but it was a quiet 24.
I don't understand how he doesn't shoot the ball more.
I mean, I think it's Jason Tatum.
He's been killing the Sixers, and he can't even. Yeah,
exactly. Like, and I don't get it. Like, I just don't get it, man. It's like it's not team basketball. And then it's like some of the decisions they make is like, whoa, what's going on? Like, what's really going on? And again, when Al is making shots, they're good. But if he's not making shots, he's not helping you.
And again, we come back to that coach. You just talked about the culture here in Philadelphia that's been changed with Doc Rivers. You wonder how much maybe they don't necessarily love the things that Mazzulla on the other side is maybe preaching or drawing up in those timeouts and things of that nature. So don't know, but it's gonna be a hostile environment when they get in here on Thursday. And they've been in spots before. They were in the NBA Finals a season ago, so it's not like they haven't been in a huge spot. But to your point, if they don't have it together, they could be getting ready to pack up for the summer, Keith, here after this game in Philadelphia. So we'll see how it goes. And again, we will be back tomorrow. We thank everybody for making us your first listen here on Locked On 76ers every day and every dayers. Tomorrow on the show, we'll get you set for game number 6 live from the center. It's going to be a raucous crowd in that building. Will the 76ers respond and take advantage of the situation that they just created for themselves, a closeout opportunity at home in Game 6 against the Boston Celtics? We'll talk to you about that a little bit more tomorrow. But Keith, do you mind letting the good folks know where they can find us in between time?
Yeah, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts at. It's free and available. And also, you can do our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is Locked On 76ers YouTube channel. And when you go on the YouTube channel, make sure you click on the Liberty Bell. When you click on the Liberty Bell, you become a new subscriber and you get notifications when the podcast comes out. Also, you can follow my man D today on the Divine Giving Show from 6 to 10 p.m. That's on 97.5 FM, right? So you can get that on the internet, all that. But do it. But 6 to 10 p.m. on 97.5 FM, the Divine Giving Show. You can also follow my man D on Twitter at DivineG975. That's DOVONG 975. You can follow me, Pompey, on Sixers, and you can read my articles in the Philadelphia Inquirer. So, we got a pretty good coverage today in the paper and online. So make sure you do that. But follow us both on Twitter, me at Pompey on Sixers, Divine at DivineG 975, and listen to them on the Divine Giving Show tonight from 6 to 10 p.m.
Yes, indeed. Well, listen, man, Keith, again, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Live from Boston. And me here in Philadelphia, and you, wherever you're listening, thank you. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks, Keith.
Peace.